Thank you all for tuning into Big Mama Story Time. Story Time! Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment to my page. Here we go. Hi guys, thank you all for tuning in to Big Mama Story Time on today. Today I will be reading to you all a request. Disney's Finding Dory. All right, let's get into this. I did like Finding, well, did I? Yeah, I did like Finding Dory. It was okay, but let's get into the book, see what this says. Dory was a little blue tang. She lived with her parents in a beautiful coral cave surrounded by seagrass. From a very young age, Dory had trouble remembering things. "Hi, I'm Dory," she would say when she met someone new. And then she would tell them that she had short-term memory loss. Dory's parents worried about their forgetful daughter, and did everything they could to stop her from getting lost. But one day, Dory got separated from her parents and couldn't find her way back home. Before long, she was lost and alone. It was getting dark, so Dory swam under a rock and tried to sleep. "Just keep swimming, just keep swimming," she sang quietly to herself as she closed her eyes. Dory just kept on swimming and swimming, getting further and further away from her home. The time passed and Dory grew up, but she still asked every fish she met if they had seen her parents. None of them had. "Hi, I've lost my family," Dory would say. "Can you help me?" "Where did you see them last?" the fish would ask. "Well, funny story, but, I forgot." Poor Dory had forgotten where she came from and why she was lost. Aw, Dory. One day while Dory was swimming along, she looked up and saw a boat speed by. Just then, she swam head first into a downed fish who was yelling something about his son Nemo. "They took him away," the clownfish cried. "I have to find the boat." "A boat?" said Dory. "Hey, I've seen a boat." Dory and the clownfish, whose name was Marlin, swam off towards the boat in search of Nemo. One year later, long after Marlin and Dory had brought Nemo back home, the three friends still lived together on the coral reef. They had a happy and colorful home and had lots of fun together. Sometimes Dory would swim away on her own, so Marlin and Nemo had to keep a close eye on her. Dory was very happy and forgotten to ask for help to find her parents. Marlin and Nemo were all the family she needed. One day, Nemo's school teacher, Mr. Ray, took his class to watch the stingrays migrating back home. Dory went along as a teaching assistant. It was a wonderful sight. Hundreds of stingrays flapping their huge wings and singing as they swam. Dory was amazed. Mr. Ray warned his class not to get too close to the stingrays because their flapping caused a strong current in the water called an undertow. The undertow could sweep any little fish away. Oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. Sorry, guys. But in her amazement, Dory forgot Mr. Ray's warning. She swam too close to the stingrays, and before anybody could help, she was swept away in the undertow. Dory's world spun around her and then faded to black. When Dory opened her eyes, Nemo, Mr. Ray, and the students were peering down at her. Mr. Ray told the children to give Dory some room. As her eyes fluttered open, Dory quietly murmured something under her breath. Only Nemo heard it. The Jewel of Morro Bay, California, Nemo repeated. She's starting to remember, y'all. I'm guessing those are parents. Later, back home, Nemo reminded Dory what she had muttered as she was waking up. It took Dory a moment to realize what it meant, but suddenly she knew. The Jewel of Morro Bay was her home. She remembered her parents. My family, Dory cried. I remember my family. Aw, that's what's up. Go get your family, Dory. All these sudden memories sent Dory into a spin. She swam straight to the edge of the reef. Marlin and Nemo chased after her. I have a family, Dory called back to them. They don't know where I am. Let's go. Dory, California's all the way across the ocean, said Marlin. Dory stopped swimming and looked back at her friends. Please, she said, all I know is that I missed them. I didn't know what that felt like. Do you know what that feels like? Yes, said Marlin. I know what that feels like. Please, Marlin, said Dory. I can't find them on my own. I'll forget. Please help me find my family. Yeah, Dad, added Nemo. You can get us all the way across the ocean, right? No, answered Marlin, sighing, but I know a guy. Marlin, Nemo, and Dory hitched a ride across the ocean with their old friend Crush, the turtle. When they arrived in Morro Bay, they found themselves surrounded by rubbish. This feels familiar, said Dory. Dory suddenly remembered something else when she had first lost her parents. She had asked the crabs that lived here for help. Just then, a giant squid appeared out of nowhere and chased Marlin, Nemo, and Dory. The two swam as fast as they could to escape. They running away, all them scared. I would be too. After they had escaped the clutches of the squid, Marlin was upset. Nemo had almost been badly hurt. Dory tried to comfort Nemo, but in his moment of worry, Marlin snapped at her. Go wait over there and forget, Marlin said. It's what you do best. Oh, Marlin, that's mean. Dory was sad that she had upset Marlin. She was determined to make it up to him, so she swam off to look for help. Just then, Dory heard a loud voice in the distance saying, "Welcome to the Marine Life Institute, where we believe in rescue, rehabilitation, and release." Dory swam to the surface and Marlin and Nemo caught up with her. Guys, I found help, Dory cried. Look out, yelled Marlin as a boat appeared behind Dory. She was scooped up by a human and carried away. Don't worry, Dory, a panicked Marlin called after her. Stay calm. We'll come and find you. The next thing Dory knew, she had a tag clipped to her fin and was dropped into a tank. Suddenly, an octopus appeared. He had one tentacle missing. He was a septopus. He reached one of his long tentacles toward Dory. Name's Hank, he said. Hank explained that Dory was in quarantine and the tag was a transport tag. It meant she was going to an aquarium in Cleveland. Cleveland? Gasped Dory. No, I can't go to Cleveland. I have to get to the Jewel of Morro Bay, California. That's this place, said Hank. The Marine Life Institute. the jewel of Morro Bay, California. You're here. Hank wanted Dory's orange tag and so that he could go and be on his own in the glass tank in Cleveland. He didn't like living with other fish. Dory explained that she needed to find her parents. So Plank grumpily agreed to a deal. He would help Dory and then she would give him the tag. Hank scooped Dory up into a water-filled coffee pot and they set off. Hank carried Dory to a map of the MLI, the Marine Life Institute. Dory spotted a purple shell on the map, which caused another memory to pop into her head. She remembered that her mother had loved purple shells. Dory remembered collecting shells as a child. Her parents had used the shells to make a path to lead Dory back home if she ever got lost. Dory snapped out of the memory and saw an MLI staff member walking by carrying a bucket. Hank hid, but Dory read the word on the bucket. It said destiny. Suddenly, Dory felt it was very important that she get into that bucket. So she did. Hank followed as fast as he could as she was carried away. Dory was tipped from the bucket into a large pool and Hank followed close behind. The pool was home to a giant whale shark called Destiny. Who couldn't see very well and often swam into walls. Her neighbors was a beluga whale called Bailey. He was at the MLI because he had bumped his head. He thought he had lost his echolocation ability, which helped him to see things that were far away. Destiny realized that she had known Dory when they were young. Dory had lived in the open ocean exhibit and they used to talk to each other through the pipes. Dory had to get to the open ocean exhibit. She was sure that's where her parents would be. On their way to the open ocean exhibit, Dory led Hank in the wrong direction and they ended up in a touch pool. Small and grabby hands came at them from above. It was terrifying. Hank hid under a rock and wouldn't come out. "I'm sorry, Hank," said Dory. "I'm sorry I can't remember, right?" Just then, Dory remembered that she had once said the same thing to her parents. Her mother had said that Dory didn't need to be sorry. "You know what you did need to do," Dory's mother had said. "Just keep swimming." "Hank, we've just got to keep swimming," Dory cried, but Hank still didn't want to move. "I know you're scared," said Dory, "but you can't give up. Follow me." Dory grabbed Hank's tentacle and they raced across the touch pool. But one of the children poked Hank. This caused his octopus ink to ooze out and turned the whole pool black. The kids all shouted in shock and ran away. Hank and Dory weren't in danger anymore. "Wow," said Hank's son. You got us out of there." "No, you got them out of there. Both of y'all did it together." Meanwhile, outside in the bay, Marlin and Nemo had met a bird called Becky, who carried them into the MLI inside a bucket. Marlin was terrified, but he knew it was the only way to find Dory. Inside the MLI, before reaching the exhibits, Becky spotted some spilled popcorn on the ground. She left Marlin and Nemo hanging on a tree branch and flew down for a feed. Marlin nudged the bucket forwards until the branch pulled under the weight, and the two fish were flung into a tank at the gift shop. They didn't know what to do next. They were very worried about Dory. She would definitely have an idea of what to do if she were here, said Marlin. I don't know how she does that. I don't think she knows that, said Nemo. She just does. Marlin knew that Nemo was right. What would Dory do? Asked Nemo. Marlin realized that Dory would simply look at the first thing she saw, and just then Marlin spotted a line of water jets heading to an outdoor pool exhibit. He sighed. Dory would do it, Nemo said with a smile. Well, that father and son leaped towards the water jets. Each jet propelled them on to the next until they landed safely to the exhibit. They made it. I'm sorry, guys. I barely could see what was over there, so I had to pick it up. At that moment, Hank and Dory had finally reached the open ocean exhibit. Dory couldn't believe she was all about to meet her parents. She turned to Hank. They're actually down there, aren't they? I hope I can find them. Knowing you, said Hank, I'm liking your chances. Now go get your family. With that, Dory gave Hank her transport tag, and Hank dropped her into the water. Dory swam down through the clear, cool tank. At the bottom, she spotted a trail of shells, just like the ones she remembered from her childhood. This was her home. Just then, Dory saw a purple shell near an entrance to a pipe. She remembered that her parents had warned her not to go near the pipe, as a strong undertow could take her away. Dory remembered with a shock that she had tried to collect this purple shell for her mother and been sucked into the pipe. It was my fault, Dory whispered. My parents, I lost them. It's okay, Dory. We trying to find them now. Well, you is. Dory didn't know what to do next. This was her home, but there were no blue tags here. A small crab told Dory that all the blue tangs had been taken to quarantine, ready to be shipped to the aquarium in Cleveland. What? No! Cried Dory. But I just got here. The crab told Dory that it was easy to get to quarantine through the pipes. It's 2 lefts and a right, the crab said. Dory looked at the pipe entrance, gathered her courage, and squeezed through the grate into the darkness. Okay, she told herself, I can do this. 2 lefts and a right. But before long, Dory forgot how many lefts she had already taken. She was lost. She could call to them through the pipes. Destiny! Dory called in her best whale voice. Dory! A voice answered. It was Destiny. Destiny heard her. Destiny had an idea. Bailey could use his echolocation to find Dory and give her direction. He just had to make an ooh sound, and echoes would come back to him from far away. It was like seeing a picture in his head. That's cool. Bailey still believed his echolocation was broken, but Destiny soon convinced him to try. After a few attempts, it finally worked. He could see Dory and the whole pipe system. He began to give Dory direction. Dory followed Bailey's directions and bumped straight into Marlin and Nemo. They had swum into the pipes to search for their friend. "You found me!" Dory cried. Marlin wanted all to head home, but Dory stopped him. "My parents are here," she said. "You found your parents?" Nemo asked, amazed. Dory explained everything that had happened, and the three of them made their way towards quarantine. The journey was much easier now that Dory had some company. Three fish is better than one. Dory, Marlin, and Nemo made it to quarantine and leaped into one of the tanks. They saw with a shock that the tank of blue tanks had already been loaded on the truck to Cleveland. Suddenly, Hank appeared. "Hank, we need to get in that tank," said Dory. "That rhymed." Hank lifted Dory, Marlin, and Nemo into a coffee pot and put them into the tank on the truck. The other blue tanks recognized Dory, but they had sad news. Dory's parents had left the open ocean exhibit and come to quarantine years ago. Nobody knew where they were now. Dory was heartbroken. She drifted slowly back into the waiting coffee pot. Hank scooped it up and backed out of the truck. Hank looked down into the coffee pot. "Where's everybody else?" he asked. Marlin and Nemo were still inside the truck before Hank could do anything else. A member of MLI staff grabbed him. The coffee pot fell to the floor. Dory spilled into a drain, which took her out of the MLI and back into the ocean. Once again, Dory was alone and lost. Oh, wow. In the bay outside the MLI, Dory swam through the water with no idea what to do. She began to panic. She was scared that she would forget everybody again. But Dory spotted something. It was a trail of shells. Dory liked shells, so she followed the trail. Just then, two shapes emerged from the darkness. It was her parents. Oh, wow, she found them, y'all. Dory's parents had been creating shell pathways all this time in the hope that Dory would see them and remember. "It's you! It's really you!" cried Dory as she burst into tears. "Oh, honey, you found us," said Dory's mom. "And you know why you found us? Because you remember." Dory was so happy to be back with her family again, but she suddenly remembered Marlin and Nemo. She had to go back and save them. Dory and her parents rushed towards the MLI walls, but saw with horror that the truck was pulling away. Marlin and Nemo were inside. Dory swam around in a panic, trying to think of a plan. Suddenly she remembered her friends, Destiny and Bailey. They could help. "Destiny!" Dory called in her whale voice. "Dory!" Destiny answered. Bailey used his echolocation and saw that Dory was just outside the MLI. The two whales leaped over the wall and into the open ocean to help their little friend. Okay, help her. I know that's right, y'all. If you can help, help. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Bailey used his echolocation to look for the truck. The friends raced after it and caught up just before the bridge. Dory had an idea. They had to stop the traffic, so she asked some nearby otters to climb up onto the bridge and cuddle. The sight of the cute otters made the drivers, including the truck driver, come skidding to a halt. Destiny used her tail to flip Dory up towards the bridge. An otter caught Dory, opened the truck back doors, and put her inside. The plan had worked. Okay. Inside the truck, Dory was surprised to see Hank. He had sneaked on board. He lifted Dory into the tank with Marlin and Nemo. "You came back!" cried Nemo. "Of course," Dory said. "I couldn't leave my family." But just then, Destiny called from the ocean to tell Dory that the traffic at the front of the holdup was starting to move again. All right, y'all gotta hurry up and get up out of there. Marlin had a plan. He called to Becky, who arrived, and scooped Marlin and Nemo into her bucket. No, wait!" cried Marlin. "We don't have Dory." But Becky didn't stop. She dropped Marlin and Nemo into the ocean. Marlin told Becky to go back and get Dory, so she headed back to the truck. In the ocean, Marlin and Nemo met Destiny and Bailey. Then Marlin spotted the two blue tanks with them and was amazed they were Dory's parents. Becky landed in the truck and Hank reached for Dory and to put her in the bucket, but Dory stopped him. "You're not going to Cleveland," she said. "You're coming to the ocean with me." Hank wasn't sure at first, but Dory soon convinced him that living with friends was much better than being alone in a tank. But just then, the driver slammed the back doors shut. Dory, Hank, and Becky were trapped inside. Oh, wow, y'all gotta get out of there. Hank slipped out of the truck through a vent and spread himself across the windshield. The shocked driver pulled over and got out. Hank climbed into the driver's seat and locked the doors. Hank grabbed Dory from the tank and plopped her into a cup of water on the dashboard. Then, as the driver yelled from the side of the road, Hank started to drive the truck. Hank, said Dory, "I'm going to ask you to do something crazy." Hank smiled. He knew what to do. Back in the water, Dory's family watched as Hank drove the truck off the bridge and into the ocean. The doors flew open and all of the fish spilled out into the waves. They were free. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Free yourselves. Don't nobody deserves to be put in no cage, y'all. Marlin, Nemo, and Dory headed back home across the ocean, and they took all their new family and friends with them. Hank, Destiny, Bailey, and Dory's parents all lived together in their new home. Dory was happier than she had ever been. She could now swim off on her own, sometimes, because she always remembered how to get back to her huge family. I'll see you in a while, guys," Dory said one day. "I've got something I want to do." Okay, Dory, go ahead. But Marlin still worried about Dory would get lost. But Marlin still worried that Dory would get lost, so he followed her. He stayed a good distance behind so that Dory wouldn't see him. He watched as she swam to the edge of the reef and looked out at the ocean. "Hey, Marlin," said Dory. She somehow knew he was there. "Oh," said Marlin. "Hello, Dory." Marlin joined Dory and they gazed out into the blue. "Wow, it really is quite a view," said Marlin. "Yep," replied Dory. "So is this the one?" Marlin said as he turned around and saw that everyone else had followed Dory too. Dory looked back to her whole family and smiled. "Unforgettable," she said. They just protected her, make sure she don't run off again. Anyways, all right, guys, that was Disney's Finding Dory. I know this was a request for a minute. It took me a minute to get the book, but I'm so happy I got the book for you all. I hope you all like the read. If you do, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. I like your opinions regardless. All right, guys. Thank you all. Bye.